Hello, Freedom Seekers. Jeremy Chambers, Independence Acres Homestead. We've got a lot going on today. Going to be doing some harvesting in the garden, what there is to harvest. Luke's out here feeding the chickens some old bread, and we're also going to start working on planting our fall garden.
Ow! Hey! Ow!
Having fun, Luke?
Somewhat. Depending if they bite my finger or not. She's a regular customer. She's not afraid of me anymore.
No. Yeah, that's a big one. All right, Luke, so do you remember what kind of onions these are?
No, not exactly.
No, we didn't label them this year, so
Too busy weeding.
might be a little bit of a failure in that we didn't label them. But the way we eat onions, I don't think it'll matter whether or not they're labeled, because red onions will get used in soups and salads. Yellows and whites will be used in cooking, sauteing. We just like onions all together. Nice, nice, nice.
This kind is big or small?
That's a medium. It'll go in a full-size one. Once we get them fully harvested, we'll start really separating out reds, yellows, and whites. All right, we don't want to lose any.
Got a lot of...
That's an edible one. Yeah, that'll work. So the reds looks like they didn't get quite as big.
No, got a lot of medium.
Yeah, a lot of
smaller
medium-sized ones.
To the bigger bulbs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a nice looking red onion.
Besides those green onions.
Yep, those are yellow. Those are probably, I think those are probably the Spanish yellow.
Oh, come on. Grass.
What? Oh, grass, that's not an onion.
Sorry.
Hey, and look, we've also got some volunteer dill popping up here in this bed. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna leave that and we'll weed around it. And we're also gonna turn over the soil around it, because we're gonna use this bed for some fall planting also. And that'll be part of our fall garden planting coming up here in just a few minutes. So here we go, nice large onion. I think these are the Cipollini. I'm gonna have to double check that. I think these are the Cipollini. If that's not correct, information will be right here. This will tell you what that onion is.
Look at them compared. This
Nice.
is a normal size onion. This is the usual.
Big one! All right, so while Luke's working on getting the rest of his onion bed cleared out, it's time for me to start harvesting some cabbage. Now, after our last video, I went in here and I just did a little bit of a barrier, because we actually had the deer come in and eat some of the cabbage. They were munching on this guy right here. Very frustrating. We have a total of 3 of our cabbage heads got munched on. So we're gonna go ahead and cut all these out today, and a little later on, we're gonna be slicing them up for sauerkraut. All right, let's get this barrier pulled down. What's that? They all only have 4? Should be okay.
This one has 4. Look at the pile of onions. And it smells really good when we pull out of the earth. What?
Huh? Oh, just... All right, so I got my handy dandy knife, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna pull the whole plant out, and then we will actually use the leaves that we're not gonna be taking into the house, and we're gonna lay them down in other areas just kind of as a weed blocker, because they work really well as a weed blocker. So it's just part of returning part of what we're growing back to the garden, and finding a purpose for it. So we can either use those leaves and add them back in as just a quick fertilizer as they decompose, but honestly, because of their size, they make a great weed block. So we're gonna go ahead and get those all taken care of. So despite all the frustrations that we've experienced in the garden this year, we actually have something to show for it. Even with the deer damage on the cabbage here, we've got a few decent heads of cabbage. There is a little bit of slug damage and slug rot on one of the heads of cabbage, but there we go. There's our onions. This is our onion harvest for 2021 from the seeds that we started back in February of this year. So we are 7 months later, and this is our onion harvest. All right, so we're gonna give everything a quick rinse down out here, strip off some more of these outer cabbage leaves to make sure we're not taking any bugs into the house. Give a quick rinse on the onions. We don't want to soak them. We're just knocking off a little bit of the dirt. And we'll go ahead and lay them out on a table so that they can start drying a little bit.
I still see some damage.
You see a slug, or you just see some damage? Yeah, it's fine. We're gonna cut out the rest of the way in the house where it's a little cleaner. All right, this one won't take long. Just
Tiny.
pay attention and bring the next one. Bless you. This one's practically a Brussels sprout. It's so small. It's a giant Brussels sprout. It's not a small cabbage.
I agree. It's a big heavy one.
Yeah, it's a good size. Well, if you're not getting wet or dirty, are you really gardening? Do you even garden, bro? So while Luke's rinsing off his onions, I'm gonna work on harvesting my small onion patch. I already did one side over there, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this other side here harvested. This is where I've got my sage, and honestly, I've done a bad job of keeping the weeds controlled over here, but it is what it is. Sometimes you can only deal with so many frustrations with things that you're trying to grow. So sometimes you just roll with the punches, and here we're just rolling with the punches this year. So weeds don't hurt, I guess, right? All right, so I was gonna go ahead and harvest out some of mine. I had the same thing going on where I had some glorious successes of as far as onion size, and I had some little puny ones. But these are gonna be great to reuse as starter onions for next year if they didn't get to full eating size. Not bad though. I'm pretty, I think we will definitely be growing some onions from seed again next year. Because all in all, this was just a really good experience. We had a lot of fun with it. And, seeing something go from something smaller than a grain of sand, well, about the size of a grain of sand, to, something edible like this, it's a pretty amazing journey. Now, we could have left these onions in here a little longer, but it is August here in Michigan. And if we're gonna do a fall garden, we've got to get these things out now so that we can get stuff for the fall garden into the ground. So, don't come at me with those aren't ready to harvest yet. Well, you're right. They're not 100% ready to harvest yet, but if we don't get them out now, we've got no space for our winter garden. So, let me get the rest of these onions out of here, and then we're gonna talk fall gardening. So when it comes to fall gardening here in Michigan, there's some things that you always have to be aware of. Number one, your projected first frost date. You can take that and throw it out the window because, well, while it's projected, last year we had our first frost in September. Destroyed most of our squash, anything that is not strong enough to survive a small frost. So we've got to be very deliberate when it is time to begin thinking about our fall garden, and now's the time to do it. Within the next week or so, we need to get everything either started inside or get our direct sown stuff into the ground. So this is the plan. This was our garlic bed. The garlic did so-so this year. Really didn't have a long enough of a cold winter since we had spring start in March. So we didn't have the garlic sizes that I really wanted. So we're gonna go ahead and garlic will get replanted again in October, November. So that means we still have 2.5 months of growing that we can do here in this bed. So we're gonna weed this all out, turn it over, get some compost in here to feed the bed. And then this bed is probably going to be some turnips, radishes, and possibly some kale. Where Luke had his onion bed, we're going to get this turned over, fed well, and then this is probably going to be some carrots, possibly some other turnips, or other root vegetables. Then over here where we had our cabbage, once again, we're not going to turn it over because this is one of our mulch beds. We are going to lay the cabbage leaves out to kill off any weeds that are starting, and then in a week we'll peel all those back. Those will go into the compost. We will fertilize with compost, and then this is going to be tatsoi, kale. We're probably going to try to put some bok choy and possibly even some Napa cabbage in here. And probably the last thing we're going to be looking to put into the garden for our fall garden is going to be some peas, probably some snow peas, something that is going to be ready to harvest in 55 to 60 days. And those are going to go on the outside of the trellis here. So the outside of the trellis will be peas, the inside will be greens, cabbages, bok and pak choy, and tatsoi. So all in all, we're really looking forward to a good fall garden season because, well, our summer garden wasn't quite as productive as we want. It is August and I have yet to have a tomato sandwich. I'm really disappointed. But, well, it is what it is. Roll with the punches. That's what homesteading, gardening, prepping, everything is all about. Sometimes you have to learn to just roll with the punches, right? Adapt and overcome. So time to adapt and get a fall garden going. All right, let's go check in on Luke's progress here and getting the onions rinsed off. Oh, looking good, right? Onions are looking real good, Luke. Good job.
Thank you. A lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, but
What would that be?
it's worth it. Oh, what is that? That looks like it grew inside out. That is an interesting looking onion. All right, we have our onions all spread out here on the table. So they have a little bit of time to dry. Like I said, about a day or two out here, and then we're gonna get them braided up and they'll go in either the shed or a part of the garage so they can finish curing out, possibly the basement if we can make sure the humidity stays low enough. We really appreciate you guys joining us as we harvested our onions and cabbage. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see what we're gonna do with our cabbage. And until next time, God bless.